I'd like to thank everyone for coming out on this beautiful morning for this celebration. And we have the colors presented. We'll have the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare on through the night, that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
While you're standing, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance by our own Doc Unger.
It was during the presidency of Abraham Lincoln that Congress directed the inscription, "In God We Trust," placed on our coins. With this in mind, several congressmen and senators suggested legislation adding the phrase "under God" to our pledge, and it was incorporated into the Pledge of Allegiance in June 14th, 1954. Congressman Oliver Bolton, the local congressman, however, was the first to ask that no comma be separating one nation from under God, and Congress adopted his version. Please join me in the pledge and salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Two.
Please be seated. Now I'll have the invocation by Mr. Duffy O'Neill.
Heavenly Father, we gather today to give thanks to the defenders of our freedom, those veterans who have led the way with their bravery and courage, these dedicated men and women who paid the price, many with their lives, that we should be safe and free. We remember, too, those on active duty who continue on this path. Keep them steadfast in their mission, resolute in their commitment, and buoyed by the spirit of our gratitude. Let their sacrifices never be forgotten, for today we reflect. We acknowledge that freedom is not free, but thankfully it is safeguarded by these heroes. Thank you for your service. God bless America.
We will have a few opening remarks by the Mayor Mike Summers, who's appointed by City Council on January 2nd, 2011 to fill the unexpired term of Mayor Fitzgerald. In the election last week, he was confirmed. Mike Summers was. He was elected to Lakewood City Council in 2007 to represent Ward 3. Spent 8 years on the Lakewood Board of Education, including service as president of the board. I could go on with the Summers Rubber Company with 60 employees and all that, but I'll just say he's a graduate of Lakewood High School, class of 72, earned an MBA from Northwestern and a BA from Wittenberg. He's a recipient of Wittenberg University Distinguished Alumni Citation and inducted into the Lakewood High School Hall of Fame. He's married to Wendy. They have 3 children, Amy, Ted, and Barbara. I'm pleased to give you Michael Summers, Mayor of Lakewood.
Well, thank you all for coming out to this important event. As a new mayor, I have the best vantage point to observe how our government behaves and how things happen. One of the pure delights is watching how our citizens step forward and take charge and make good things happen. And this event personifies citizen action. Our veterans group deserves all the credit for making Veterans Day the reflective event that it is in our community. On behalf of Lakewood citizens, I thank you for our leadership veterans group. I also would like to acknowledge we have several elected leaders that are with us today who work hard on these issues and others. I know Judge Pat Carroll, I believe, is here in the audience. We have our representative from our State House, Nikki Antonio, is here with her father, a veteran. We have members of City Council, Brian Powers, Monique Smith, Ryan Nowlin are here, as well as David Anderson, Tom Bullock, Sean Juris, and Mary Louise Madigan. And we thank and acknowledge them for their important leadership to our community. Well, Clara Barton was founder of the American Red Cross. She was often referred to as the angel on the battlefield, and she knew American soldiers at their most vulnerable state. In 1898, she wrote, "I love and admire the American soldier. I think him equal, if not the superior, to any warrior of any time. He is not only brave, but he is generous. And when he has fought for a principle and won, he has no desire to crush his foe, but is eager to abide by the old maxim, live and let live. And he forgets and forgives and lends a helping hand when a disposition to do the right thing is shown." Today we remember these warriors, past and present, and we understand that their activities and their demeanor personifies the best in all of us, and we're grateful for it. Commander Gilbane?
Wilbert Knittel, the poet laureate of Lakewood, has a little poem for you, fitting for today. Yep.
Last year when I was here, a woman came up to me after the service and she said she enjoyed the poem that I had did then. And she said that a friend of hers, son, was missing in action. He was found and sent home. And I said it was so strange she told me that, because I was just planning on writing another poem about a soldier coming home from the war. And I said, next year I'm going to do it on someone missing in action. And this is the poem that I wrote. It's called Fresh Flowers for MIA, Missing in Action. A father speaks. It's so good to have you home again. You've been gone so awfully long. And not knowing where you were, it just seemed so very wrong. I missed our days of fishing, and when we went on nightly walks, they kind of brought us closer. How I miss those bonding talks. That empty chair at supper time, between your sister and your brother. The many words that were not spoken. The tear-filled eyes of your dear mother. And your brother, how he missed you. When you went upon your tour, he said you probably won't be back. Of that, he was quite sure. You know your sister idolized you. She kissed your picture every night. She said she missed your teasing. You not here was just not right. Sweet old grandma raves about you, says you're the bestest in the land, while Gramps just sadly smiles and says you were his extra hand. We couldn't believe your many friends. They called most every day, asking when and if you would be home, and all the wonderful things you'd say. Now you are back home with us, your absence in the past. All your longings and memories are gone, but they still last. Well, I guess I better cut this short. Mom's got me hitting the grocery store, and you know if I'm a minute late, she'll be waiting at the door. So goodbye, my special hero. Here's a salute, and here's a wave. Oh, and when I come back to see you, I'll have fresh flowers for your grave. P.S. I dedicate this to all the veterans and all those missing in action. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and God bless all of you.
Thank you, Will. Our keynote speaker today is Captain Stephen Torpey, as in torpedo. Currently assigned the chief response to the 9th Coast Guard District in Cleveland, Ohio. And I didn't realize it, but that goes from New York to far off Minnesota, that big chunk. It's primarily charged with the management of all law enforcement, search and rescue, pollution response, operation communications, and intelligence program within the Great Lakes region. His operational tours included Clearwater aviation training, Mobile, Air Station Sitka, which must have been a lot of fun, and then San Francisco. He was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross for a rescue in Alaska and was listed as the 1999 Air Crew of the Year by the Naval Helicopter Association and the Association of Naval Aviation. Captain Torpey is a graduate of the University of Massachusetts with a Bachelor's of Science in Mechanical Engineering and has a master's degree in organizational management from the University of Phoenix. I've only met him today, but I'm really impressed with a guy who can tell me that he can't imagine having a better job than he has now. That impressed me. I give you Captain Stephen Torpey.
Thank you, Jim. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, Mayor. But most importantly, good morning to our veterans. I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to stand before you today as we recognize our veterans for their unwavering service to America. In fact, this moment is particularly unique because not only is it Veterans Day, November 11th, but just moments ago, the hands of time marked the 11th second of the 11th minute of the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of the 11th year. An event that only occurs once every 3,153,600,000 seconds. Across this great country and throughout the world, Americans will pause this day to honor the more than 42 million brave men and women who, for more than 235 years, have underwritten our freedom by their duty, honor, and selfless service. We recognize that all of our veterans have given something of themselves to this country, and some have given all, laying down their lives to defend the freedoms we hold so dear. This morning, as we reflect on the blessings of our liberty, we ask our Heavenly Father that we may be faithful stewards of the freedom we have been granted. Let us never forget that we cannot rightfully celebrate the joy of our freedom without remembering the great price paid for that freedom. We stagger at the eternal debt we owe to the untold number of American veterans who chose to set aside their personal ambitions and dreams to assure the well-being of our great nation. We, the living, are indeed the beneficiaries of those who made tremendous sacrifices for the advancement and surety of our liberty. May we always be humbly grateful to those brave American patriots who suffered and sacrificed for the freedom of all Americans. For those servicemen and women who have stood guard in peacetime, and to those who have seen the terror and the horror and inhumanity of combat, and to those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice, let it be said that our armed forces have been there for America, defending the Constitution of the United States. To all our veterans, we have a simple yet heartfelt message. Thank you. Thank you for your unwavering service in peacetime and war, here in this nation and throughout the world. For all veterans, regardless of their service or the era in which they have served, they have paid the price time and time again. They have defended America through both the best and worst of times, and they have performed their duties tirelessly, with little recognition or fanfare. They have sought neither fortune nor fame. It was merely a simple love of America and the freedoms we all cherish so much. Soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guardsmen know what it is like to stand guard in the chill of the night and while others sleep. They understand the meaning of hardship, standing watch at freedom's frontier, far from their loved ones. It is this devotion to duty that gives us all strength. Looking out on the world, we see our armed services serving in over 100 countries throughout the world, and the legacy of our veterans continue to inspire our American service members today to answer the call to duty. Today I have the distinct honor of representing Rear Admiral Mike Parks, the commander of the Coast Guard forces that serve and protect the Great Lakes region. As the smallest of the nation's 5 armed services, I would not be surprised that some of you may not be familiar with the Coast Guard or its 11 missions. So let me offer you the following. The Coast Guard employs approximately 42,000 active duty members and 8,000 reservists. To put this in perspective, the New York City police force is bigger than the entire United States Coast Guard. But don't let our small size fool you. For more than 220 years, the United States Coast Guard has safeguarded the nation's maritime interests and natural resources on our rivers and ports, our littoral regions, on the high seas, and around the world. We cover the 95,000 miles of U.S. shoreline and 3.4 million square miles of high seas exclusive economic zones. We work with the Department of Defense, the U.S. and international maritime industries. We partner with a variety of federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies, and many foreign navies and coast guards. Our service members stand the watch, both here and abroad. We have specialized law enforcement teams embarked on Navy vessels throughout the world. From those platforms, Coast Guard crews participate in interdiction, counter-drug, and counter-piracy operations. A summary of our value and role is to protect those on the sea, to protect America from threats delivered by the sea, and to protect the sea itself. The bottom line, we are America's maritime guardians, and we wear many hats: policemen, sailors, warriors, humanitarians, regulators, stewards of the environment, diplomats, and guardians of the coast. We are a member of the armed forces, but we are also the only federal first response agency. You'll find us working shoulder to shoulder with other first responders in the community, both rescue personnel and law enforcement. We deploy where we live, and we are truly members of the community. When it comes to national security and military operations, you will always find the Coast Guard serving alongside our Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines. often quietly and without much fanfare, but we are always there. In fact, since 1790, Coast Guard has participated in every one of our nation's armed conflicts as one of our nation's armed forces. Our crews fought in World War II, conducting anti-submarine warfare escorts, amphibious landings, and search and rescue. In the very dark, early days of the Battle of the Atlantic, when the U.S. Navy was short of anti-submarine ships, Coast Guard cutters engaged German U-boats in battle. Coast Guard crews are credited with sinking at least 11 enemy submarines and rescuing more than 2,500 survivors of North Atlantic German U-boat attacks. We landed troops on D-Day and throughout all of the Pacific island hopping campaigns. In fact, my wife's grandfather was a Coast Guardsman that commanded 2 Navy troop carriers that operated throughout the Solomon and Leyte Gulf. He eventually returned to the Great Lakes, where he grew up, and became the commanding officer of the Coast Guard cutter Mackinac, which we affectionately is known as the Queen of the Great Lakes Fleet. We were there in Vietnam too, sending our shallow draft patrol boats and our high endurance cutters to conduct coastal patrols and provide fire support for military forces. Our helicopter pilots flew combat search and rescue missions with the Air Force in the famous Jolly Green Giant rescue helicopters. Today, Coast Guard units continue to deploy in support of operations in the Gulf and Bahrain. At the height of the Operations Iraqi Freedom, there were over 1,200 Coast Guard personnel in theater, including large cutters, patrol boats, port security units, law enforcement detachments, and support staff. So you can see why this is a point of pride for us, that while our domestic operations and maritime safety and homeland security keep us busy and relevant here at home, our unique capabilities make us a vital part of the national defense team. So what should you take away from ceremonies like this? I would hope that you now know your armed forces are more than just boats, tanks, aircraft, or equipment. Your armed forces are about people. Brave, intelligent, highly adaptive people who willingly put their lives on the line for their fellow Americans. While we pay homage to all American veterans today, I particularly want to thank the families of our veterans. The President proclaimed November as Military Family Month, calling on all Americans to honor military families for the tremendous contributions they make in support of our service members and our nation. Military families must frequently endure long separations and miss important occasions, including birthdays, anniversaries, and holidays. Throughout, our wives, our husbands, our sons, and our daughters carry on and go above and beyond the call of duty. Without their exceptional strength and sacrifice, our active duty and reserve members would not meet the mission required of them. In closing, American servicemen and women are like no others in the world. They volunteer to serve, and they understand and accept that with its service comes inevitable sacrifice. To protect their nation, they repeatedly tread in harm's way, and if necessary, give their lives not only in action against our enemies, but often in the service of humanity. Allow me to leave you with one final thought. A country and a culture is ultimately defined and judged by the way it treats and respects those who have served and sacrificed for the safety and security of others. If we are to believe this line of thinking, and I, for one, think we should, consider the proud history and heritage of the armed forces of the United States and make every day Veterans Day. Thank you. Semper Paratus. God bless the families and God bless the veterans of the United States of America.
skies for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful for patriot dream that sees beyond the years, thine alabaster cities gleam, undimmed by